This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Monday and Munoz. Please welcome Monday and Munoz.
Hello and welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, a podcast on which we discuss news, opinions, and ideas about comedy. My name is Igor Monday.
And I'm David Munoz.
And today we are talking about health and not health and sacrifice in comedy. So we came up with this idea while discussing, how to put this gently. You guys can't see us.
We're getting fat.
Okay, that's not gently, but
We're getting fat, Igor. We're putting on weight. We are now two little roly-poly men.
We are getting older. We are gaining weight way easier. And due to our lifestyle, I would say, and that's partially because of comedy. And there's definitely been parts of my comedy journey where, the comedy lifestyle really, really affected my, I would say, health as well, and so on. And obviously, we had to sacrifice some things as well. This is exactly what we wanted to talk about today. Sacrifices we've made or we think are right to... David, stop playing with your...
Belly fat?
Belly fat.
Yeah,
with
it's
your
like a freaking belt.
Love handles.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's like a belt around. It's like one of those, those flotation devices you puts on a baby to put them in a pool. And it's like
the donut.
Yeah, the donut. Exactly. I literally have a donut around my waist now. It feels like the front, at least the front part. The sides, not so much. The back, thank God I didn't. Thank God my back fat isn't too bad.
Do not play with your belly fat.
Sorry.
I wish we had a video recording of this podcast.
You don't.
No, I
you
don't.
really don't.
And you guys don't either.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Be glad.
But yeah, I mean, even before the weight problem, it's not a problem, is it? It might be. Anyways, I would say that also because of comedy, we had to make some other sacrifices besides the health issues and health related stuff as well. So this is something we are hoping to discuss today. So let's start with, first of all, you started doing comedy when? How many years ago?
I want to say 2014, 2015? 2015.
I want to say 1972, but it's not true.
2015.
All right, so let's say approximately a year after me, right?
Yeah, it was about a year after you, yeah.
And at that point, you were how old?
Oh, yeah.
30,
Wait, 36.
36. Yeah. And I was 26 when I started.
Right.
So, as a 26-year-old, I would say boy. I wouldn't even say, I think that's, when you're in your mid-20s, you're still a kid, a young adult.
Looking back, you think, I'm such an adult, but no, I think 20s, you're still a child. You still haven't figured out who you are. I think it's when you get close to your 30s is when you start figuring out who the fuck you are.
Yeah, fair. So I would say that I was, still a young
whippersnapper,
boy, young adult.
Young buck.
Yep, young buck indeed. And you were already a grandpa. Yeah. So...
Born a grandpa, living as a grandpa, always been a grandpa.
That would be much.
Grandpa suits me.
If we started this podcast,
as a kid. Sorry. Yeah.
I wanted to say if we started this podcast 7 years ago when we started comedy, it will be called a young buck and an old fuck.
Yeah, totally. But the thing is, even as a kid, I used to when I got older, I'm gonna be older, family. I always pictured myself as a grandpa. The whole adult, being a dad part, I kind of skipped over. I was like, no, I think it'd be cool to be a grandpa. Because, you get to do the cool grandpa stuff and you see them on the weekends and then you get to piss off. Yeah. You don't have to deal with them.
That sounds much better than being a dad anyway.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Just, when you get to a grandpa age, which you're approaching at a
exponential rate.
Yeah. Just adopt a grown-up.
Yeah.
And then you'll be a grandpa by proxy.
To their kids, yeah.
But, I can say that 8 years ago when I started doing comedy, I was 26. I was still kind of full of life, full of energy. I had all the time in the world because at that point I was working basically 1 day in 2 weeks. I had that kind of job where I was very free. So that means I could spend evenings, especially weekends, at bars, hanging out, drinking, doing comedy, staying up, partying all night and stuff. And I had all the necessary requirements for that. I had time, I had energy. I didn't have that much money.
But it was enough to buy a drink.
But it was enough for drinks, and I would maybe earn some tips doing comedy as well and stuff. And that's how I did the first few tours that I traveled on my own expense, and obviously didn't make the money back and stuff because I was ready for that. Let's go. Let's sleep in cheap hostels, 8 people in a room. Yeah. Let's stay up all night partying after every show and still make it to the next city and next show and stuff like this. While at this point, I go to a club, and every time it's a very hard decision. Should I have that beer before the show because I might be suffering the next 3 days after?
Uh-huh.
And so let's start before we get to the health. Let's start maybe with some other sacrifices that we've made or comedians maybe should or shouldn't make for stand-up. Would you say that, okay, in this like last 7 years of doing, what's your biggest sacrifice? What's the biggest thing you've lost or donated or invested into stand-up? What do you think? Was it time? Was it money? Was it energy? Was it, I don't know, friends, family? Was it house, car?
Firstborn child.
What have you lost?
Lost in a bet. No, I would say time, but not maybe friends. I don't know. I don't think I have sacrificed. I think maybe that's probably the reason. Maybe that's
why you
I'm
haven't
not big.
succeeded.
Yeah, I haven't sacrificed shit because I've gone, oh fuck, it's not that big a deal. No, but it's for me. Okay, so one thing I've noticed, like, okay, when it comes to friendships, and we've discussed this before, where it's always that weird thing of like you want to invite your friends to come to your stand-up show, but
correction, you don't want to invite your friends to come to us. Well,
but you kind of got it because
early in like when I just started, and then not when I just started, like first I know 3-5 performances, I was too shy for anyone to see me perform, anyone that knows me.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, this is going well. People laugh and like me. Let's bring everyone who I know to see this, because it was like, a little like brag, look at me killing it on stage, right? So I would invite all my dates to stand up. Obviously, I would invite all my friends I had, come and see me be this
all at the same time. All your dates, all of
both of them,
your friends,
both of them, I would invite to stand up. But
so that's
now,
3 people at a table.
Yeah, but now I think after that initial, thing wore off, when it's just a thing of like prestige and I'm a cool guy on stage. Shut up.
No. Prestige and comedy, I don't know if they really go together.
You know what I mean? Like you're kind of.
I'm a comedian. I'm just picturing there's what do you do? Well, I'm an expert in Middle Eastern philosophies and the historical value of the Ottoman Empire. Oh, very good. And what do you do? Well, I'm a dean and a don at Oxford University. I'm a stand-up comedian. Oh, very prestigious. Very prestigious.
Well, that's the first two examples. Not prestigious. They're just pretentious. You're just confusing those words. Right. But I mean, I think in a group of friends, when you say like, yeah, I'm a stand-up comic, I come on stage and I perform, and they're like, go, oh my God, that's really cool. Yeah. So for them to hear it, it's one thing, but for them to come and see it and then see other people really kind of laugh and enjoy and kind of shake your hand and pat you on the back after the show, I think it's quite a good,
no, it's an ego boost. It's a little trip.
Yeah.
But do you get like after a point, you just don't want to invite people?
Yeah, but that's when when you stop wanting people to come, that's when you start needing people to come.
Yeah, because that's where the organizers of the show are like, invite your friends.
Yeah.
Can you send some personal messages? And you're like, I don't want to bother my friends. Like, because now it's like, shit, they've already been, and I only invited them last week. If I invite them this weekend, they're going to look at you like, really? You want me to go again? Is it at least new material? No, it's the same one you saw me do last week because I'm still working on it.
Yeah, you can sell that kind of, we're friends, so you owe me this a couple of times. Then you can sell this kind of, we're acquaintances. So
remember how I covered that taxi ride? You owe me, bitch.
Yeah.
Come to my show.
And if you remember how I covered that taxi ride, I covered it orally, the same way I do stand up. So and then it's kind of acquaintances. It's kind of like, oh, this might be interesting for you to see me kind of half stranger, half friend, perform stand up. And then when it's kind of audiences you met on shows, you're like, oh, you've been to the show 3 months ago. Well, now we're doing a bigger paid show. We work towards this and, come and see it. So, you still have some angle to sell it to them and to pitch it to them. But after some period of time, it just becomes like, here's another show I'm inviting you. Here's another show I'm inviting you. And as an organizer, which I worked for, 5 out of 8 years, I've been a performer. 5 or 6 years of those, I've been also an organizer and producer of shows. And I've invited so many people on my Facebook through those events, personally through like direct messages and stuff. Hey, there's a show this Friday. Please come. Putting it on my Facebook. Like at this point, my Instagram is 90% stand-up and 10% my personal life, especially since I stopped traveling or anything like this starting the pandemic.
Has anyone ever unfriended you? Like you're like, I think they unfriended me because I kept inviting them to the stand-up shows.
I don't keep track, but I believe that's a very, very viable possibility.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what I'm worried about. So this my tactic is sort of like I might like if I invite people, like people like when I come, okay, then I won't invite them until I hear them go, oh, so when is your next show? And then I'm like, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it's like you're fishing, right? It's like fishing. Like, you drop in the bait. They might, like, you get one, and then you, instead of like, just trying to grab the same one, you're like tugging it in front of them. Like, you might mention a show you just did or something like that. And then hopefully eventually they might go, oh, wow, so when's your next one? And you're like, oh, really?
Gotcha, bitch.
And then you're kind of like, okay, so what's the good one they should come to? Have you ever done that where like you might even have like a group of friends and you're like, okay, I'll invite these ones to this show. I'll invite those ones to that other show. And then I'll tell them all that I have this gala, like, the big show here. So they will all come to that one. But then after that, I'm not going to invite them to like the next 3 months to anything because they're not going to come.
Well, I've had when people ask me, like, oh, you do stand-up? I'm like, yes. When's your next show? And it's literally like, I don't know, in 2 days.
Yeah.
But it's like this Friday showcase where I'm kind of, it could go either way. And, someone,
and you want to make a good impression.
yeah, so someone like not very dependable is hosting, and like you're hosting the show,
Right?
And there is a lineup of, I don't know, like 3 open micers and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, not this weekend. No, I'm not doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing like in 2 weeks we have a showcase. It's a paid show, and they're going to be like 3 foreign comics that are really good. So come to that. Yeah, nothing before. No, I can't, because it's not even that I don't want them to see me struggle or something. Just like they would come. They probably wouldn't have a great time. Maybe they will have
So
an
they won't
okay
want to come
time.
back again.
They wouldn't want to come back again, and it's going to
Yeah.
be like, well, I came as a favor to you, but that, I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of done with this type of entertainment or
Yeah.
whatever. So I would actually like them to come, and especially if they're spending some money, to
Yeah.
actually enjoy the show and get a good show.
Yeah, I always feel weird. Like people are like, oh, when is your show? Like maybe they've never seen it from that. Oh, when are you gonna? Oh, so you do stand up? Like, when, we like to love to see your show. When's your next one? You're like, this one, but I'm hosting.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, and part of me is like, actually, that's kind of good because they see quite a bit of you, and you actually get to drop little bits of material throughout.
I would rather invite people to the shows I'm hosting.
Yeah.
Because you have both. It's a win-win situation. If you do really well, you're kind of like, they saw me in the best possible light. But if you do kind of just okay, that was your job, to be the shadow, to be the MC, like not to overshadow others, like not to take the spotlight. So I'm like, oh, I guess you're not familiar with the stand-up format. I'm just there to announce, I'm not there to kill, to do any jokes.
I'm a hype guy. That's
Yeah.
kind of like a hype man. That's
So
my thing.
plus I would argue that, especially after like years and years of hosting was my strong suit. Other than there was a period of time when I could do a good 10-15 minute set, but put me as a host and I'll probably kill it, like with the crowd work and stuff. I just had that practice, right? So it would even be better because always people appreciate that much more than the written bits when you're just like kind of bantering with the crowd. So I was like, okay, I'll invite them to the shows I'm hosting, because it's a safer bet for me.
Right. So I got to say that is probably one of it. Like that would be the kind of sacrifice. Like, not in the sense, but like in the sense of like you sometimes feel like once you invite someone to a show, you're like, you're now in the circle. Like you are now within the vortex. You cannot escape. You must come to more of my shows. You've come to one, you will now come to all of them. All of them.
It pays off though. I mean, like I'm surprised. I've done this like best of show last month, a month ago approximately. It wasn't a big venue, like 60 something people, and I didn't invite anyone personally. I mean, like I didn't write to people, hey, haven't seen you in a while, want to come to the show. I put it like on my Instagram, I put it on my Facebook and usual like channels of promotion, and there were at least 20 people that came to like some shows a year ago, 3 years ago, 7 years ago, and stuff, who were like, oh, I'm glad you finally did your own show, and I was so happy to come and hear some old jokes again and how they evolved, and hear some new jokes and so on. So
also you did advertise it as your last show in Moscow, so they kind of knew that this would be like last opportunity.
that's also
So that's another factor that comes into it, because if you had just gone, it's a special, maybe some of them would have gone like, I'll catch the next one.
that's the problem when you invite people to like weekly shows, because you're like, oh, hey, come this Friday, and they're like, but doesn't this happen every Friday? I'll catch you like in 3 months.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
Good. I'm good. Like I'll catch you in 3 months.
Yeah, because
So-
not that many people actually go to comedy shows every week.
Yeah, well, they don't have to go every week, but I mean, even if you invite them to a specific show, they're like, but I can't really make it. But that's not a problem. I can make it any other time, right? And then they never come, but they have that in their mind, like, oh, I can anyways go whenever I want.
Yeah.
But all right, so in terms of like friends, we haven't lost much because we didn't have much to begin with. In terms of money, would you say that you've spent, or in other words, wasted? No, invested?
No, because I've not done those tours that you have, like through Eastern Europe. I never. I never got invited.
How dare you, Eastern Europe? I've
never
done
got
all
invited.
regions of Europe.
Okay, well, I've never been invited to those, so I wouldn't really know because nobody invited me.
Well, I guess you were too busy touring Siberia or whatever the fuck you were doing.
Well, yeah, but that was part of a normal holiday anyway, so that money was being spent. See, that's the way I mainly did. Or I did those little, the little town tours that we did nearby, which were also awesome. And we always, I think,
But those actually made us.
they actually made money or broke
like
even.
small, but they usually made money. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I never actually had to sacrifice money in that regard. So no, I would say the money has not been an issue. I mean, it was supposed to be an issue. One that I had wanted was to do the Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
But because of COVID and all that sort of shit, that hasn't happened. Although it's apparently happening this year for any of our listeners who are in Britain.
Come and see us in Edinburgh if we're going to
yeah.
be there. We'll record more podcast episodes and you can listen to those as well. But come and say hi if we're going to be there. I hope I'm going to be there. David might be there.
Yeah,
Maybe neither of
See,
us
this
are
is
going
my
to be there.
problem because
But,
yeah. So this is the issue exactly we're having, whether I'll be able to make it or not. Otherwise, it would be great, but unfortunately, yeah, the money is the main sacrifice that I'm not willing to sacrifice. This is my problem. Although part of me is thinking maybe I should.
Well, I think that's
know.
especially the first run on Fringe. It's always ends up in basically losing money. Right?
Oh, absolutely. No. I do not plan to make a single pound off it. If I made tips, like I ended up spending less than what I had originally intended, I'm winning. Like if it's like, okay, my budget is, £600 and I ended up making £100. So really the trip only cost me $500. I would see that as a massive win. You know what I mean? But yeah, so my thing is like, yeah, it's the price. If it ends up being less than what I originally intend, anything is like cream. But I do expect to spend money. I'm not going to walk out. I do not expect to come out breaking even or anything like that.
Well, even the tours that I've done and stuff that, there were shows where it's a showcase and it's a, let's say, I don't think it was a paid show or maybe it was a paid show or it was a bucketed show or something like this that I've done. Basically, Saturday evening.
Yeah.
I remember one particular venue. It was a very posh, kind of high-end French bar tied to a French restaurant in the center, and it was very pricey, especially back then, like 5-6 years ago. Like a beer would cost you 15 euros. Is that even? No, it wouldn't be 15 euros. It would be, God damn it, man! I don't know, 8-10 euros,
right.
Which is still a lot, right? And basically, we would go there. We would do a show. It would be 4 comedians. It was a showcase. And at the end of the day, like when we get the bucket or whatever it was, I think it was a bucket, we would split the money. Well, some would go to the organizers, like 30% we would always keep for the organizers for promotion and stuff like this, for running ads. And then we would split the rest between the comics. And as a comic or host, whatever, I would get something like 6 euros.
Right.
And one beer was 8 euros. So I would go there, I would get 2 beers waiting for my spot, and I would lose money. Basically, just leaving home, knowing that I'm going to have at least a beer there, or like a Pepsi was, 5 euros. So if I have like one Pepsi or one cup of tea or something, I still earn like €1, which is nothing.
Woo!
And then if I have anything else, especially it's like Saturday evening, and you come there, I don't know, like 7:30, you're going to be there till 10:30, 11 till the show finishes. You kind of eat something as well. I would always lose. Everyone will lose money on those shows.
Yeah.
So, and basically the tours first.
Really, all you're doing is getting a discount on drinks and food.
Well,
Anyway, that's one way to look at it. Like,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah.
You just got a
you
discount.
got
That's
one drink for free or almost for free.
Yeah.
And first few years actually performing.
First drink for €1. Oh, thank you.
First few years performing, there was the bar where we performed. They had this policy that all the performers get a beer. Like you could get a beer for free. It was obviously like the cheapest, kind of shittiest,
Nasty
watered
beer.
down lager
Yeah.
that usually costs like nothing anyways, but you would get that beer for free. And some people would come on stage just to get that beer for free. So it was still something, but it's not really. And then the tours obviously cost me a lot of money that you could pay back some of it, because when you go on tour, you charge for the show mostly and stuff, but still you lose money on, like, especially not even me, but the other guys that went that needed visas and so on.
Yeah.
And even guys who go to like Fringe and need a visa and everything. So, but I think first 3 tours I've done lost me money, and the 4th one was a commercially successful one, and it actually made us all money. And I think overall I've made money with comedy. Especially with like producing and stuff, I made money overall, but I've lost money in particular instances. And there would be cases where I'm literally leaving home, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not now going to pay to perform.
Yep.
Because I'm kind of spending money on 2 drinks, earning money that covers less than one of those drinks, only to do a 10-15 minute show for 50 people.
Yeah.
So I'm paying to do comedy, basically.
No, yeah. But in a way, it's if you think of it as a hobby, you always got to spend money on a hobby. That's just it. Like, unless, I mean, even being a chess player, okay, so you spend money on a board, on a chess board. You probably spend to go to clubs or be member of a club or something like that. Like, everything you have to spend money on. So in a way, that's the way I see it. So I don't consider it a massive sacrifice. As hobbies go,
It's a cheap one.
it's a cheap one. And it's one where you not only get to spend money to perform, but also you are drinking alcohol and having food. So it's good. The problem is drinking the alcohol and the food at these, I mean, our hobby is in a bar. Pretty much, we're in bars.
Let's talk about sacrificing your health. But before that, about the finances, one final thing to mention. I've learned that since I've become, let's say, experienced and good enough, so to speak, to like reach out to some organizers in different cities around the world and actually doing my set and charging money for it, I can now travel just to travel for fun, right? But also book myself a show. And I've done this like 3-4 times in different countries and cities and earn money and cover a part of that traveling expense, which means that
It's just
a
discounting.
hobby,
You're just
but
using a hobby as a discount.
yeah, but I'm not traveling
Discount
to
card.
perform.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the funny, that's the kind of
What I
the
did in
catch,
Siberia. Yeah.
right? I'm already there. There's already an audience. I do already have my 20, 30, 50 minute hour set. Why not do it? And then I actually earn some money. So it's, just earning money, which is great. And I think that's a very great way to combine those things. Like, you travel and you do your hobby and you earn money, which means that you are now at some different like semi-professional level or something because you are profiting from comedy. But about the health issue, the fact that we do get some free drinks sometimes. We do spend like the whole evening in a bar, usually after the show as well, some hangout. We go to a different bar. We order what you eat in a bar. You don't eat some like
Burgers,
rice and stuff. You eat
fries,
burgers, you eat pizzas, quesadillas and so on, tortillas, nachos. You drink beer, maybe something even stronger than beer, etc. You stay up all night, party.
All night long, all night. All night long, all night. Woo! Yeah. Okay.
This is becoming an NFT. So that's, do you think it took a toll on your physical or mental health?
Well, yes and no. I would say because it's a temptation. It's the temptation of like before your set, you want to relax, so you have a beer. Afterwards, you want to unwind, so you have a beer or two. Especially, I think after a good show or something like that, when you're hanging out, especially if it's a place conducive to comedians hanging out afterwards, you end up sitting around a table, and then maybe some people from the audience will join you and whatever, and then you end up having drinks and you meet new interesting people. So why not? You're gonna bond over drinks. So
Bond over drinks is the next James Bond movie.
yeah.
007 Bond over drinks.
Yeah, and just him and Blofeld over a drink, finally bonding.
Martini.
I'm sorry, I tried to kill you, Bond. It's okay.
Shake and not stir. Bond over drinks.
But the thing is, like, so you spend your time there, and then you end up like 2:00, 3:00 in the morning. You're drunk. The hangover the next day is going to be a bitch, especially the older that you get. But you're having fun at the time. You're like running on a ball, and then. Like we said before, you're buying a burger and fries and whatever, and then you end up grabbing that taxi home, and because you missed the last metro, you finally stumble into your bedroom. You're not even sure how the hell you got there. You pass out. The next morning you wake up with a massive hangover.
I thought you were going to say with a massive erection.
Yeah. Depending, did you go home with someone or not? Maybe that's why.
If you're alone, then you have the massive erection.
Yeah. So at this point, and of course, because you're in bars a lot of comedians, I think, tend to smoke and things like that. There's a lot of smokers amongst it. So you chain smoke, cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. So I think when it comes to that sort of thing, it's pretty bad. And if you don't eat at the bar but you want to leave and you want a midnight snack, what places are open at 2 or 3 in the morning? Usually not health bars and stuff like that. You're not going to find a salad bar open.
Yeah,
it's going to be KFC, McDonald's, whatever. Shawarma place. And you end up eating those while stumbling home if you're within walking distance. Or not. Sometimes you're just like, fuck it, I'll walk it, like screw that. And all of a sudden you realize you've been walking for an hour and a half while eating a shawarma, which is half dribbling down the front of your coat. But that's just it. I mean, it's fun. Like, in a way, I'm a little bit nostalgic now. I'm like, I miss
The question
those
is,
days.
would you be doing that exact thing if you weren't a comedian? Would you still on Friday, Saturday evening? Well, especially some
Only
years
not
ago.
as frequently. That's the difference.
Well,
I
yeah,
think it's
that's
the
the difference,
frequency.
yeah.
Because in order to do, I think we have to be there every weekend if you're going to do it right. And if you're doing it proper, you're doing it 4 or 5 nights a week. Like proper comedians are like constantly every night out there. And this is where I kind of said yes or no before, because we could do without it. Like I did a year, I went 1 year dry, right? So last year, last year I did a dry year. My wife and I both decided
You did no jokes.
Not that dry. The other dry. No, dry humor.
Dry humor.
But everything with a stoic face and a British accent.
Blimey.
Not that British accent. not freaking Cockney chimney sweep. Oi, Gav, how's it going? Yeah, a good one. Go up the pears.
All right, Governor.
Apples. Anyway, God, we are so sorry to all the British listeners right now.
Nobody listens to us.
Really?
There are
thank fuck. Those
zero
poor
no
bastards.
British listeners. They have much better podcasts to listen to.
Yeah, and the Americans have gone, oh, that sounds very British. That was perfect.
Yeah,
That's
spot
how
on.
the Queen speaks, right? The Queen and Adele. So the thing is, so I did a whole year dry. I didn't have a drop of alcohol, and I was surrounded. And the weird thing was, other comedians like, oh, let's go for drinks afterwards, and they look at you like, oh, can you join? Because it's like, I can still join you guys just because I'm not drinking alcohol,
But you won't have any
you?
fun.
Yeah,
And you won't be fun to be around.
exactly, because we're going to get shit faced. So that's the thing. So you can do it dry. I think it's a choice thing and it's a temptation. It's about the willpower. You can do it. You don't have to eat the quesadillas. You don't have to order the burgers. You could eat healthily before you go out, not have a single drink.
Of
But
course.
that's
That's
That's the atmosphere.
Because if you talk about like if I now try to remember, those tours, those shows, like, I remember the show itself, but I also remember the fun surrounding the show. Like before,
Yeah.
I remember the festival we did in St. Petersburg, where basically like 3 of us, we came, I think, using different modes of transport and at different times. But then we all met at this street that's very popular with a bunch of bars and stuff. It was maybe, 4 p.m. The shows were at 7 or 7 probably. We met up at 4 p.m., went to have some food, I think even.
Yeah.
And we ended up having, 4 or 5 beers each. The bar was buying us drinks because we were like foreigners and quite loud in there. And they were like, let's
loud foreigners.
Yeah.
This is when Russia was really cool with loud foreigners. They were happy to see loud
It
foreigners.
was like 6 months. I think it was
Yeah.
the summer of the World Cup or something, or was it 2019? I don't remember. But yeah, anyways, and that whole experience plus that show. Then after the show, we met up with with other comedians, went to a bar, and then everyone kind of got boring and stuff. And only few of us, your friend Karen, who's a comedian from I want to say Guatemala.
Oh, yes. That's right. She was.
Shout out to Karen.
Yo, Karen, how's it going?
Then our friend Danton, who's now a stand-up comedian in Toronto, originally from the States.
Yeah, he's back there. Yeah, I keep seeing things on Instagram. Hey, Danton, how's it going?
Hey, Danton, shout out. Our friend Arun, who's now in Melbourne,
Hey,
also doing
Arun.
stand-up. Hey, Arun.
Shout out.
Just did the Melbourne International Comedy Festival.
Did
as
he,
well.
motherfucker?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw the poster for that thing.
Yeah.
And they misspelled something. And I was like, what the hell? Like they screwed up one of the past tense. They used regular when it should have been irregular. It was so unprofessional.
So unprofessional. Horrible. Anyways.
I hope you're doing better and I hope you got over that.
I think it was only 5 of us at the end of that kind of second bar where we went for drinks. Then we went kind of partying and dancing all night long and went home at, we finished partying at maybe 6. Then we went to Subway.
We had some really good ribs earlier on, just after the show. We ended up
we
in a
went to-
corner rib shop.
Yeah.
And because I remember Danton was like literally like pulling them in, going, "This is so good. This is so." I think he ordered like a second rack, didn't he? Oh,
Could be. Sounds like Danton.
So
Anyways,
barbecue ribs, delicious. We went to that club that was on the corner.
yeah, the kind of Latino club or something. It was like a Cuba.
But
something.
it was a special thing.
Fidel
you had to knock on
Castro
the door.
thingy.
No, that was the one after that. No, the one that was on the second floor. You had to go. It looked like an apartment building.
Oh no, that was an after party for the comics for the festival.
That was the
So we
festival
went there,
after party.
Drank for free because it was like for
We
comics.
also smoked some interesting things.
This I didn't attend, but
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
But apparently it was a thing. This
Yep.
is becoming an NFT.
Yeah.
David confessing that he smoked some weird stuff, or
good
that people
stuff,
have
good
smoked
stuff.
some
Yeah,
stuff.
some people.
Allegedly,
It's good stuff.
Allegedly. So yeah, and then we ended up like partying till 6 in the morning. Then we went to Subway, ate some very tasty, I want to say, sandwiches, and then went home around 8 in the morning.
Jesus.
And that
were
was
we
only
performing that same day?
Yeah, it was the same.
Yeah.
I
As in we went to sleep and then had to perform later on?
No. That was already.
That was us to leave.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but I remember I had this Fitbit kind of thing, the bracelet thing on my hand, and because I came that day, went walking around the city, then met with Arun, one of our friends and comics. Then we walked a bit more. Then we met you. Then we went performed and stuff. In total, I had something like 42,000 steps.
Right.
And we danced all night and stuff and that's the most steps I've ever done in 8 hours or something, just crazy. But yeah,
And it was so much fun.
It was so much fun, and I remember that bit even more than I remember. Which
See, it was healthy.
Well, it was healthy. I did many steps.
Yes.
But I remember that whole experience much more than I remember, I don't know, which joke worked and which didn't, or how much money, how many tickets did I sell for that show, or something like this. So tours and stories from the tour, if I now remember, the first tour we went to 2016, I mostly remember where we drank and how we struggled to get on the bus for the next show and stuff like this. So I think there is some, and plus it's even this, when we had those headliners, guests that were coming here and performing, we would always take them out for drinks afterwards, and even that networking and stuff, it's important. It's investment in, if you're planning to turn this hobby into a career, it can pay off, but just by meeting people, hanging out with people.
Absolutely.
Audience as well. You go to a different city, someone recognizes you, people listen to a podcast you do, networking, meeting people, it can pay off. But I think health-wise,
it does take a little bit of a toll.
Yeah, it does. Especially as older you get, and when your body just doesn't agree with that lifestyle, and when you start gaining weight, you start, feeling hangover for not few hours but few days after drinking, and you can't do those long trips. You can't. It's really.
But at the same time, there's got to be a way, because let's take so let's think of some big name comedians. So one. Some comedians are kind of famous for this bad living lifestyle. Dylan Moran, right? He was always the acerbic, satirical, kind of acid-tongued Irish guy who was constantly drinking red wine on stage. He was the wine drinking, even did what Black Books, where he basically, that was his character, was basically an exaggerated version of himself, drinking wine, being pretentious and acidic and acerbic to other people. So that's it. But even he stopped drinking, if I recall. He had to stop.
Notorious Jim Jeffries, who would always come on stage and have several beers during his performance and getting drunker and drunker as the show went on. And even people like Ricky Gervais, who would have a few.
He always has a pint behind the plinth. He has a little plinth, and if you notice, every so often he pulls out and just has a little sip and he puts it back.
Yeah, and usually it's a huge can of Foster's or something. It probably also it's a kind of placement, right? It's a product placement and stuff. But still, I don't see. It was 10 years ago. I think nowadays they don't do it anymore, because also their body doesn't agree with product placement anymore, or their agent. I don't know. But so definitely I think I don't regret 3, 5, 10 years ago when I did those things. But I think nowadays I just couldn't keep up with such a lifestyle in terms of the health requirements and repercussions of that. All right, so friends covered, money covered, health covered.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's still a choice with that. Yeah,
there's always a choice. You just don't have to do it.
Who was the other one I was thinking of? What's his name? The guy who does the British guy. We were talking about the other day. The football. He was about to be a professional football. He could have been a professional football player, but he went to
Russell Howard.
Russell Howard. That's it. He's a fit guy. Always has been a fit guy. But like we were saying, he's
a thick guy.
No, fit.
Oh, a fit guy. Okay.
Right. Yeah, he's fit. He's a fit lad. And he was he could have been a professional football player. It's been discussed. He even had some possibilities and chances. So he's obviously kept himself fit. He's always been fit. He's always been relatively slim. And even now, he's a little bit, he's about my age.
A bit younger, a year or two younger.
Yeah. But it's not really that noticeable yet, but it's starting to be noticeable on him, but mainly just in the face sort of stuff, which is what I was saying, he's still wearing jeans and the sports shoes and the t-shirts, what he was wearing which looks cool in your 20s, passable in your 30s, but now it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, you're dressing like a teenager. At what point are you going to change? Because he still has that kind of laddish, like, guy that you can meet at the pub. He's really sweet, really nice, funny as hell. But, you know, he's not pretentious, but he's smart, obviously.
Well,
he's
I think that's
insightful, but this is the character.
the difference is because the level that he's doing this on,
True.
it's, you know, he doesn't spend every Friday, Saturday, or maybe several days a week in,
Well, he had a TV
in a
show.
basement bar and shit.
Yeah,
You know,
he was
like,
honing his
he
craft
can-
on TV.
Yeah, he can do writing at home and do
Yeah.
like one show or one special a year. The rest of the time spent in the gym and pay like a professional, I don't know, dietitian or fitness trainer or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what, you know, it's on some
I think
level.
at that level, yeah, I think you're right, because when he talks about, like, you know, when he was in the car with the other comedians, like, well, I think there's a whole group of them that used to live together, like they literally like flat shared, and I think they've all of them have become big names, sort of thing, in their own rights. So like all of them moved on. But the thing is, like, you know, he's talking about like all of them being in the car breaks down, they're at the petrol station, they're buying bad, cheap food and things. And he's doing what we just did. You know, he's reminiscing because, you know, the documentary about him. But you kind of get the feeling like, yeah, you haven't done that in probably 20 years now, or 15 years. Like,
Yeah.
you've stopped doing that because once he got his TV show, he was already, well, established.
Well, that's
at that point.
that's the circuit life, you know, when you're just doing the
Yeah.
the regular weekly shows and the circuit and you're
But some
traveling
people
around.
can't escape that. Like Russell made it big, right? You know, Ricky has made it big. All these guys like Dylan Moran, they've all made it big. They don't need to do those circuits anymore, like you said. But not everybody gets there. Not everyone. Like, they were lucky, like those guys that all lived in the flat. I think they all moved pretty much into bigger circles, but not all of them have. Or some only go semi. They still have to do the tours. And I once met a guy who, you know, in Madrid who had that. Like, he had been part of like the circuit in New York and things like that. He was around at the same time as Bill Hicks. He knew them personally. Like, they all hung out. They used to go for drinks afterwards. So he was part of that crowd. But he obviously never made it to massive international. He just moved around. He even quit for a while. And then he kind of came back to it, but he's only semi doing it. But he was talking about, you know, buying fast food at 1 o'clock in the morning and still doing that at his age, sort of stuff. And you know, and just that kind of, just that harder life sort of thing. Like, you know, there's still drinking was a big part of it, and going for drinks. And, you know, it was a great time. I hung out with him. He was a really cool guy. Really enjoyed it. But at the same time, it's like, wow, you know, so long. That's got to start taking a toll on your health. And you could tell his hand was a little bit shaky. You know, he was sweating a bit. And it
I
was
think
just
it's
like,
always okay. It's if you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice. You know, if
Yeah.
you're still working a circuit, well, if you're working the circuit still 15, 20 years in, maybe that's a decision you should make. You know, if it's taking a toll on your health and you just can't eat that shit food and can't stay up and drink beers every day, but you're still doing it to make it, maybe you just won't make it, or maybe it's time to, I don't know, it's up to you. It's a personal decision.
Yeah.
But when you do reach some level, you know, it's also a choice. How will you then, you know, because for example, Russell Howard, who's like 40 something as well. And in that documentary he has on Netflix about him kind of preparing for a huge tour and a show, and then pandemic happened and stuff. He was stuck in I think in New Zealand, he was
Yeah.
stuck in a hotel room for 2 weeks doing the quarantine
Yeah.
before like some shows. And he spent every day like writing and exercising.
Yeah.
He would like write bits and exercise.
Yeah, and
to
this
keep
kinda
himself fit.
And you know, it actually reminded me of someone else. It reminded me of Ozzy Osbourne. Like, you know, the Osbournes, the TV show, where he was about to go on tour. And I never watched the reality. My friend, I had a couple of friends who watched it who were like metalheads, so they loved watching Ozzy. But the one little bit, I remember seeing a snippet of it, and it was basically him with a trainer doing jogging. And it was so weird to see Ozzy Osbourne wearing like, you know, tracksuit pants and like looking like a kind of a semi-football player, like, you know, that kind of like on the park playing. An old guy like he is, even with the dyed black hair, you can tell he's much older. Like, you know, at this point he's in his 60s or something when it was filmed, 50s or 60s or something. I think 60s, maybe a little bit more. But he's jogging, getting himself fit to go on tour because he's like, I need to get the cardio up. Otherwise, I will not survive the tour. Like, it's important because it's so much cardio work that's required. And so all of these performers, like even like the Stones and stuff, have to do workouts and they have to get their bodies up to a certain shape in order to be able to get out and survive a freaking tour, because otherwise they won't make it.
Well, if you're doing a very like physically exhausting tour, you are very energetic and, you know, like active comedian on stage and stuff. If we talk about stand-up, then that's probably also, you should be ready for that. Yeah, but I mean, for example, Jim Gaffigan, we've had here as well. So like he flew in, I spoke about it on one of our previous episodes. He flew in like, I don't know, 3-4 in the night, went to the hotel, slept almost till the show time, woke up, came to the venue, prepared, did the show, went to sleep. Because he's a man of certain age and he won't stay up all night drinking.
Yeah.
Like, had a drink after the show, I think maybe, or tea or whatever, chatted a bit like with the organizers, with us, the producers and stuff. He was like, okay, blah, blah, thing.
I remember you guys were thinking, because at first he was like, okay, we were going to go for like a drink to hang out. I remember he was like, yeah. And then after a while he was like, actually, I want to go back to the hotel.
Yeah, I'm super jet lagged. I'm tired, and he's gonna.
And everyone just went, yeah, fair enough.
It was the first day of his tour. He was about to do, 10 shows around Europe, and you don't want to, like risk it all being hung over 10 days just because first day you went out and you partied all night, especially again at his age. Yeah. So same thing with Dara O'Brien when he was here as well. Like we met him briefly after his show. It was something like a Wednesday or whatever. Finished the show at maybe 10.
Yeah.
And like we met him after the show and he was already, like coat, hat, I'm going to the hotel. It's my nap time. It's my curfew. Because the man knows that he's doing, 10 more cities after that. He's going to be flying, he's going to be tired. He's not going to go out. It's, it's experience.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, this is what I was saying. It's at the end of the day, it is his choice still.
Yeah.
Like you can choose not to drink. And you don't have, just because you're at the bar, you don't have to, but the temptation. And especially when you're, in my case, and I've made jokes about this on stage, I'm around younger comedians. Guys are in their 20s still. And all of a sudden they're all like, let's go for drinks. And you're like, yeah, because you don't want to miss the fun. Because it is fun. It's a fuckload of fun. Like you said, you do remember those moments. Just your body also remembers it the next bloody day.
But you are not
your waistline.
Like at the end of the day, you are your own manager. Let's say, even if you have a manager, you're a manager of yourself, right? Of your body, of your performance, etc. So I've heard this really kind of, I would say, wise, especially for his age, or smart or inspiring thing from one of the comics here. He's a guy that's maybe 26 now, but he's been doing stand-up for, 10 years, since he was a teenager, basically. And he got really big at one point because there was a scandal involving some people threatening him and stuff like this. Then he was prosecuted by the police and it was like a public court case and stuff. I mean, he was innocent, but whatever. So basically, then he was a guest on one really, really big YouTube show, like an interview kind of show and stuff. So he just exploded suddenly. And he would sell out shows wherever he goes, travel around, sell out shows. And he said, I used to do 2, 3, 4 shows a day. Yeah. Like if I'm not doing a paid spot, I'm doing an open mic, trying some new stuff. Then I'm doing my own solo show. Then I'm doing this preview of the show, whatever. And every day I would do at least one show, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, etc. And he was young, 24, 25.
Yeah, the energy. Why not? Do it.
Yeah, but then he said, I realized after 6 months or 1 year, I had a girlfriend and we broke up because I never saw her. I was never at home. I never spent time with her. Most of my friends kept asking me when can we hang out? And I was like, come to the show. Yeah. But that's not hanging out. That's you being my audience.
Yeah, and that's the sacrifice part about that.
And I was doing fine with money. I started earning to pay my own flat and stuff with stand-up, which is a dream.
Yeah.
But even health-wise, he was like, I would wake up at 2 p.m., prepare for the show. My first show would be at 6, second one at 8, third one at 10. I come home at midnight or 1, especially if I stay for drinks after the show. Yeah. I come, I sleep, I wake up. And that's why I decided to do 5 days a week, 4 days a week even. People, I would take, Monday and Thursday are my days off, my weekend. I'm never doing shows on those days. Even if I get invited to to do Las Vegas, I'm not going to do it. Those are my weekends. Those are my weekend days. And then I will also try to, one day I'll do a 5-minute spot on an open mic. And the next day I'll do my solo show. I won't try to cram it in the same day. Yeah. So really kind of to actively spend time on managing my time and my schedule so I don't burn out.
That's the other thing, time. Because as a comedian, when are the clubs open? When do people want to see stand-up?
Never.
The thing is, we have a hobby which is done at nighttime. Usually, the later the better. And in certain circles, from what I hear in places like Britain and America and things like that, in the main hubs, London, LA, whatever, New York, the shows, like the clubs will be open till really late. But if you're an open micer, you're probably going to get like the graveyard shift. You could be on at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, that's when you're doing your sets. You're not getting home until like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, something like that. Like, you do your sets, and even those that are big, like I remember not big, but like those who work many nights. I remember speaking to Stephen Carl when he was here, and he was saying like he can do 4 or 5 shows in one night in one club because they had multiple floors and they had different venues. And, so he's working from about 9 o'clock or something like that. And then he might do like the 9 o'clock show. Then he has some show at like 11. Then he has one at 1. And then he has one at 4 or something like that. By the time he finishes, he's done 4 shows in one night and then he goes home. But that means that you also sleep all through the day. Your body clock is set to a whole different rhythm and time that doesn't fit in with normal life. And as an English language teacher, like we've both been in these kind of jobs where our time can be out of whack with everyone else's. And it does pay a little bit of a toll, like, take a bit of a toll because you're eating differently to other people. What is dinner for you is breakfast. What is your lunch is something different. It's just, it's all over the place. And then what food is available when you're around. This goes back to the food that you're able to eat. But also, it's just that when are you awake? When are you going to sleep when everybody else is? You're sleeping while there's daylight hours. Maybe the sun's really bright and it might mean you don't get good enough sleep. That can have an effect.
Well, I mean, definitely. And even if you look at, managing your time and not even how much time you spend at the clubs and stuff, bars, but when is it and so on. Because even this like fictionalized versions of stand-up comedians, and we talked about some TV series that we watched and recommended, like Crashing and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and stuff. I mean, she's a horrible mother. Like she's never with her children because she's doing like whole evening. She's doing the guy in Crashing. His wife cheats on him and he gets divorced because he's like going on stand up. He's driving to another city. Like he's driving from New Jersey to New York or whatever to do like some open mics at 11 in the evening because that's the only time when he can get a spot. And then he, he's not at home with his wife who then just gets serviced by someone else. Yeah. So, like it's kind of, I would say it's, of course, it's fiction. It's TV. But those, like, that guy is an actual comedian, stand-up comedian, and he wrote that series partly based on his own experience and so on. So, it's really, if you are going to do this, you really have to be, I would say, strict with yourself and manage yourself well. Otherwise, you can get lost in this, it's a business show. There's no business like show business. And
it's a weird one.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, okay, so my hours now, like I finally got a job that's like during the day. It's a normal job as an actual teacher at a school. Problem now is even when the show is at 8 o'clock, like on a Tuesday, I finish work, it's 4:30, whatever. I'm knackered. I am so freaking knackered. Then I just go home because it's at 8 o'clock. So it's not like it's at 6 where it's like, I'll just go directly there, do my set, then go home and go to crash. No, I have to then go home because there's not enough time. So I've got 2 options. I either go home, I would relax there, but not really relax because pretty soon I'm going to have to go, maybe prepare myself. Then I have to go do the show. By the time I finish though, and then travel back home, I have to wake up at like 6 in the morning. So technically to get 8 hours sleep, I should be in bed by 10. The show's at 8, finishes at 9:30. By the time I get home, get changed, maybe even, what am I going to eat there before the show, which means I'm having pub food again, or I'm eating at home, but it's going to be a snack. It's going to be late. It's going to be just before I go to sleep. I'm going to eat dinner. Like it's a bit of a thing. And I admit, when I first took this job, I thought, I'll be able to do weeknights now. I have not done a single weeknight, not a single weeknight. Actually, tomorrow I plan to do for the first time a weeknight because technically I'm now on a holiday. I don't have to go teach. So my week is free.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned like with our jobs in particular, we have a bit more different schedule than most people that work like office hours and stuff, regular 9 to 5 or whatever, I don't know, 10 to 7 or something like this, right? So let's say that we do have a bit more flexibility or possibility to perform, etc., than I would say most people. But I still think at some point, and I'm not saying either of us have hit that point, but I think you need to make that choice, like down which line you want to go, because otherwise you're hurting yourself with this. I mean, like if you try to, you're just gonna burn out, or you're just gonna, or do it like moderately, just enough to itch.
Well, this is maybe like the weekends basically.
Yeah, to scratch that itch, but not too much to burn out or to suffer any like serious consequences. because of it, like financially, health wise, like socially, whatever.
I actually lied. I have done it once during the weekday. It was on Monday. It was the Spanish night. I was hosting. So I did do it once. And yeah, I made it because I promised that I would do it. And I wanted to help out the Spanish group because there's only really 2 people who host. So it was like, gosh, okay. Because, I know Natalia would like to perform and have her time. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And it was like I said, it was like I finished work and then I had to decide, do I go home or do I go straight to the venue? I ended up going home. I think I tried a snack. I can't remember what it was. Then I went to the show. I was knackered. I was yawning beforehand. So I'm drinking Coke before to get a bit of caffeine in me. The thing is, during the show was fun. I had a great time. I also got really animated in it. Like I did a few act outs that went great, got good laughs, everything like that. Thing is, it woke me up. By the time I finished the show, I was energized again. Yeah. That was the problem. All of a sudden, I'm like, God, I could go out and have a couple of drinks with some friends and have a good time. But I've got to work tomorrow at 6. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home and I'm going to lie in bed with my eyes wide open going, yeah, that was cool. That was a good set. Yeah. Okay.
And then you have to wake up in 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't fall asleep until I think around midnight or later. And yeah, I had to wake up at 6. So I was like, oh, Jesus. But it was just because, the big after. It is a rush on stage. It is a rush. And it's an adrenaline rush. That's another thing about health, the junkiness of it, the addiction that can happen.
Well, that's, I think, maybe more. You can also get addicted to those beers and stuff, or chain smoking and stuff you're doing in that group of people or in a bar usually, etc. But I would say mentally also that thing of like going up on stage, getting that adrenaline rush, getting like the applause and affirmation of other people, being that kind of star on stage and bringing your friends
being
and
the rock
they
star.
admire you, whatever. That can also be a bit addictive and stuff. So if you're doing it properly and if people actually enjoy what you're doing, it might be a bit of, like you keep chasing that high, keep chasing that rush.
Just that feeling.
But I would say that we are, I think, approaching maybe that point where we need to decide how much are we willing to sacrifice for comedy. And I don't mean just stand-up, but even things like these podcasts, etc. Because we also, spend some money on the equipment, on the setup, etc. So if you want to help us with that and hear more episodes and let us keep doing this podcast and our stand-up, you can first of all donate to Patreon. You will find the links everywhere on our social media and wherever you found this episode. But you can also like us and subscribe to us, upvote us on the platform you are listening on, as well as comment or share or subscribe to our social media, which is...
Or donate to Weight Watchers because we seem to need to lose some weight. No, I'm kidding.
Or help us to get a Jim subscription. I don't know who Jim is, but I would like to subscribe to him.
I heard he's really funny and good.
Jim Jeffries. Subscribe to Jim Jeffries.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. I've been Igor Monday.
And I've been David Munoz.
Goodbye.
See you later.